Cape Cod Broadcasting weaves the listening environments of 99.9 WQRC, Ocean 104.7, WFCC Classical 107.5, Cape Country 104, and CapeCon.com's website experience to reflect the lifestyles of the people who live, work, and play on Cape Cod. We hope that you enjoy this podcast.
I'm Laura Reckford, and this is Sunday Journal. I'm here in the studio with Greg Kelly, the sailing master at Pleasant Bay Community Boating. Greg, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you.
And Fran Schofield, who is on the board of directors of Pleasant Bay Community Boating. And Fran, welcome to the show to you, too.
Thank you very much.
Now, we're talking about this organization, Pleasant Bay Community Boating, and it's been around actually for quite a while, more than 10 years. How did this get started, Greg?
Well, that's an interesting question. At the time, I was the sailing coach at Chatham High School, and John Dixon, who's actually the idea was his to actually start this up. He was coaching at Howard, and we were taking our collective teams together on a bus up to Boston for a meet. And he had mentioned this to me, and of course, he, at the time, well, all his life has been a yacht club member, and he actually was the sailing master at Chatham Yacht Club for years. So, he had this seed of ideas, and I thought, well, that's probably true, because as a coach at Chatham High School, I found that many of the kids that tried out for the team had actually never sailed before, and that's growing up in Chatham. So the yacht clubs tend to be more for summer kids and not for the locals. And John recognized that, even though he earlier was a summer kid, but he lives now in Brewster. So that's how it got started. And we were also partnered at the time with the Maritime, the Marconi Maritime in Chatham, and that was getting started at that particular time, which was about 12 years ago. And John was involved in that, and I got I was brought into it. And but John really wanted to get this community boating program going.
And we should explain a little bit that the whole concept of community boating is that anyone could learn how to sail, because usually that's a sport that, as you were saying, it may be only available to the people who can afford the boat and afford the yacht club.
Right. I mean, that's the whole concept. It's really patterned after Boston community boating, which is well over 100 years old, and they sail on the Charles. We are fortunate because we have Pleasant Bay, which is so much better than the Charles River.
And then Pleasant Bay Community Boating, immediately it was sort of different, where you partnered with Marconi, and I understand you also have as your mission sort of an environmental stewardship aspect of it, which is unusual as well.
Yes. We are trying, at the time, actually, we're negotiating with the University of Massachusetts to have a satellite facility at our place for their marine science. And we're hoping that they do come on board. But we also have reached out to other universities that we do have a facility available to them. So we're hoping to partner up with somebody pretty soon on that.
And we're going to talk about this exciting news about an acquisition, but I wanted to ask before we get into that, has your mission changed over the years? It's been 12 years or so, as you say.
Well, it's evolving, is true, but certainly I would have to say the emphasis is on sailing and providing sailing lessons for youth and adults, and that's really our primary mission right now. And now that we have acquired land on the water, and we see the possibilities of bringing in other facets of marine studies and so forth.
And let's talk about this acquisition, and it's a good time to bring Fran into it, because I understand that's how you got sort of connected with this organization. Mm-hmm. Tell us about that.
Well, I represented Pleasant Bay Community Boating as their realtor in the purchase of this site. And I would say that in the 12 years of operation, they have been functioning off a small beach in Chatham with no structures, no dock, the beach is eroding, etc. and they've been searching for the right site for 12 years.
Now, how were you representing them for all that time?
No.
Okay.
Just recently, within the last year, I became involved, but I should back up. I have two sons who sailed on the Nauset sailing team and who had worked as sailing instructors with Pleasant Bay Community Boating previously. But John Dixon reached out to me when they identified this particular site, and the site is marvelous. It is referred to as the McClellan Estate, and that's the Edward F. McClellan Estate of Nutter, McClellan, and Fish. It is 3.6 acres. It consists of a beach, a small beach, a dock, a licensed dock, 4 buildings, and sufficient land for parking and circulation. So it's the dream site for the organization.
I'm so curious how this all came to be, because obviously a small nonprofit, and to be able to purchase what sounds like a phenomenal piece of property on the water. How did that all come together?
Well, that's a very good question. The organization, and I marvel at the commitment, the energy, the vision, the dedication of people like Greg, John Dixon, Roz and Bill Coleman, who have been with this group since day one. And they set their sights on this purchase. They raised, within just a few short months, almost $1 million to finance the down payment. It was financed by the Cape Cod Savings Bank. And
that's Cape Cod 5 Savings Bank.
Cape Cod 5 Savings Bank. Thank you.
Now, when you saw this parcel, and I'm sure as you were looking for waterfront property and you saw this, and I would think if I were the realtor, I'd say, well, they'll never be able to get this one. How did that sort of come together where they were able to do it?
Well, it was not easy. It was not easy. The negotiations were lengthy and complicated. There were many trustees in the estate, and there were also competing offers. But several members of the McClellan family had been very committed to the notion of Pleasant Bay Community Boating being located on their family's estate.
Well, that's what I would think, is
yes.
They would have to be committed to that, because, as you say, there would be other offers for such a wonderful property.
Yes. So we secured the land, and again, within a few short months, we raised nearly $1 million.
That's amazing.
And we've begun the master planning effort for the site. We've hired a firm called Samasco and Verbridge, and they have been working with our group since January, I guess.
Yeah,
January,
right.
To determine the uses of the various buildings, what's the best way to get from point A to point B. And now we're just embarking on a capital campaign called Charting Our Course. And that's, we're launching that campaign at the Sail Away Gala Auction, which is going to be held at the Wachusett on July 13th. And I've just learned, as of this morning, we are sold out, which is thrilling, because this is our first foray into, the auction world and fundraising. So we have a number of sponsors to whom we are very, very grateful. And hundreds of donated auction items that are incredible.
It sounds like it's going to be a wonderful event for those who are lucky enough to get their tickets. I'm Laura Reckford, and this is Sunday Journal. I'm talking with Greg Kelly and Fran Schofield from Pleasant Bay Community Boating, and we're talking about this amazing acquisition. Now, tell us a little bit, for people who aren't familiar with the organization and the area, whereabouts exactly it's located, how much acreage it is, and maybe some more details about the price of the property.
Well, it's located on Route 28. It's an interesting parcel because it's actually on the parcel is on 3 towns. The northernmost building, called Square Top, and the boathouse and a dock are in Orleans. There's a middle house called Three Towns. We didn't give it that name, that the family did, and that is actually in Brewster, and it's the only parcel in Brewster. And being a Brewster resident, I thought, And then the southernmost part, which includes 2 houses and an empty lot, is in Harwich.
I love that it's in 3 towns. And, of course, Pleasant Bay is in 4 towns, I believe.
That's correct.
And so
yes.
I bet this actually helped with fundraising, the fact that this is really something that goes beyond one town. It goes into 3 and 4 towns.
Very, very much so. The whole program is designed to introduce people from the Pleasant Bay communities and even surrounding towns. It's not restricted to Orleans, Chatham, Brewster, and Harwich to get on the water.
Yeah, I mean, in the past, we've had families driving from Sandwich to take sailing lessons. They get their kids into the sailing lessons. So we're pretty much anybody. We'll take anybody, of course. It's open to everybody. But people will travel a distance to involve themselves in a sailing program, which, we find is really great.
Well, everyone thinks of Pleasant Bay as really the ultimate place to go sailing on the Cape. As those of us who know that area, there is that funny area where those 3 towns come together, and I think it's just terrific that that's where your property is.
Well, actually, the site that Greg just referred to, the house called 3 Towns, is located on a parcel because there are multiple parcels that combine to form this 3.6 acres, is actually located in 3 towns.
That's terrific.
Which was not easy from a permitting standpoint.
I bet it wasn't. And that's is that one, because I understand there's a historic house on the property. Is that the historic house as well?
Yes, it's the and I'm not sure how this has been documented, but it's apparently the 3rd oldest house on the bay. Really? So it was built in the 1800s, and it was acquired by the McClellans just around the turn of the century, and that would be from 1800s to the 1900s. You have to say that now that we're...
Yes, now that we're in another century.
Right.
But that's amazing. So it has all these unusual things about it, that it has this historic house and being in all the different towns. Now, how will this property allow you to expand your programs with Pleasant Bay Community Boating?
Well, as mentioned before, we were working off the beach, and we used to work out of the back of my truck. And then 2 years ago, we actually bought a little box trailer so that we could keep stuff in that and the town allowed us to keep it on the beach. So that we had gotten advanced as far as we could with our program working off the beach. So now that we have property, we have buildings, one of the first things that I'm going to be able to do, because running the sailing program, is to have shore school. In the past, if we had bad weather, thunderstorms or whatever, and truthfully, we had thunderstorms and we had kids out in the water, and of course we got them to shore as quickly as possible, but we had to put them in cars because we didn't have any shelter. So now we have shelter, and also we'll be able to, as I mentioned, have shore school. This past springtime, I took a class from U.S. Sailing called the REACH, which is U.S. Sailing's answer to STEM, which is an educational initiative throughout the nation for science, technology, math, and
engineering.
Engineering, right. Thank you. So U.S. Sailing has developed a program that's around sailing and teaching these concepts through sailing. So when we have a day that we can't be on the water, we're going to be able to institute or initiate that program at Pleasant Bay Community Boating.
That's wonderful. And I understand you'll also be able to have some sort of a nature center. Is that right?
That is the plan, and we do have some classes planned called the Muddy Creek Explorers.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it does. Muddy Creek is at the other end of the bay in Chatham. Actually, it's divides Chatham and Howard, and it's a really neat area. And so the kids are going to go up there and explore pollywogs or whatever. I'm not sure because that's not my my thing. But that's where they're going to be actually working on that. The state is going to be taking out the culvert and putting in a bridge there. It was supposed to be this year, but it's been postponed a year. And so that's going to increase the flow up into Muddy Creek, and it'll become even more accessible for our program because we'll be able to take one of the small boats up the creek.
Well, so many exciting things going on. Now, you've raised the money for the property, and what was the purchase price?
Well, the purchase price was $3.1 million. We raised the money for the down payment.
Okay, you've got some fundraising to go.
Some fundraising to go. I think we're looking at about a $3.5 million goal. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And that will go to retiring the debt. It will go toward restoration of the buildings or repurposing the buildings and reconstruction of the site, a lot of, site work, paths, and the parking lot has already been completed in advance of this season's programs. New septic system was installed. But we're going to be doing this in a phased way, so it's not happening overnight. And as we raise the funds, the first order of business, of course, will be to retire debt. But that will enable us to expand our programs. And we are in discussion, as Greg mentioned, with various academic institutions who might be interested in using one or more of our structures as a center for marine research and study, which will be phenomenal for the organization. It will be phenomenal for everyone. I did want to mention a couple of special programs that we offer, which are the special, and I know Greg can elaborate on this, but the Special Olympics programs that we offer for intellectually challenged children and young adults, and also, and that's free of charge. And also, we offer free of charge sailing lessons to children participating in the Monomoy Community Services Program. So while the overarching goal is to afford accessible and inexpensive boating opportunities to the rank and file individuals, we do offer free programs for special populations.
That's
and I
wonderful.
think that's exciting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, our approach, just to segue into that, we are a nonprofit, and we keep the fees at an absolute minimum, and anyone that is having difficulty, we adjust the fee to match the need. And so from the beginning, we've always depended on the generosity of community members to keep the program going, because the fees do not cover the expenses.
Now, it sounds like a wonderful program for people who want to volunteer, give money, participate, find out more. Where should they go?
Well, I would suggest they can go to our website, which is www.pbcb.cc. They can email us at info@pbcb.cc, or they can call us at 508-945-SAIL, SAIL. And if they reference the Charting Our Course capital campaign, that would help direct them to the appropriate people.
Okay, that sounds great. And unfortunately, we're out of time. I've been talking about Pleasant Bay Community Boating, and I'm here with Greg Kelly and Fran Schofield from Pleasant Bay Community Boating. Thank you both for being here with me today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I'm Laura Reckford, and this is Sunday Journal.
This podcast is a presentation of Cape Cod Broadcasting, which is solely responsible for its content. Thank you for listening. For more information, please visit us at capecodbroadcasting.com.